I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
The one thing that I would venture to say, but I think that women are vast majority, are going to want to be mothers and wives. And they're going to put that aside and then go right into that career thing. And then get, like we keep telling you, get to the top of that hill, the top of that mountain with no kids, no husband, and a bucket of money.
The Kardashian years, the Sex and the City years, I think those years did a lot because it made women think about themselves and not anything other than that.
Yeah.
And so when you pair that with the internet, which was also the Kardashian explosion of women always needing to be validated elsewhere.
Hi everybody, welcome back to our channel. I apologize for not putting up a post about not recording last. I forgot to post it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't post it. We didn't record last week, or we didn't have a video up last week. Sorry about that. It's a little bit of a busy month for us. Right? We live in Indianapolis, and it's the Indy 500, and we work in the hotel business, and it's really busy here. This is a whole month. So it's just a lot going on. So yeah, sorry about that, you guys. I meant to post that. So we got a lot of people asking us about Sean Combs, about the hot topic. I understand that, but I'm just, like, it's the industry, right? I don't see where any of this is really shocking.
I mean, look, she knew who she was dealing with. I'm sorry.
It's the industry.
I don't mean to be heartless, but look, I've had bad relationships and I knew who I was dealing with.
Me too.
I thought I could change people. I got, you know what I mean? And when you get in those relationships, it's you that has to change.
Yeah.
And you can't sit there feeling sorry for people. You don't help people by feeling sorry for them.
Yeah. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I just, so anybody who's asking about the video on that, we're just not that interested in it.
She wanted to be famous.
She wanted to be famous. She's famous.
She knew what was up. I mean, you know what I mean? This wasn't like she went to a hotel and then all of a sudden he started beating her up or something. No, they've been seeing each other for quite some years now. And it's just like, don't tell me it's the first time just because what we saw on tape was not the first time that ever happened. You're never going to sell me on that.
I know people said to us that that he needs to be put in jail and also, too little too late. She got paid off. And she didn't process. I'm assuming, allegedly, this is why he paid her off, so he can avoid the jail. He knew that tape exists, right? So he wanted to avoid that. So she got money. He doesn't go to jail. This is how it works. It's called settlements. There's you know what I mean? The settlements are there for a reason. That's why they happen. But you guys, as for the situation, I don't want to devote an entire hour on P. Diddy and this young lady. I do understand though that she is in a better. From what I understand is that she's in a better situation. She's married, has kids, to a normal man.
Look, sometimes it takes. I will say this real quick.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does take getting hurt really bad by somebody to make you realize how much you don't need something.
Yeah. So again, I don't follow Cassie's career. I don't even know she's a singer.
Who she is.
Is she a singer? I don't even know who she is.
I never even heard of her until, and I haven't followed this either.
Yeah.
I just saw the video real quick, and I don't even follow P. Diddy. I mean, last time I saw P. Diddy, he was with Mace.
He was Puffy.
He was Puff Daddy. That was the last time I followed rap in general.
Yeah.
Like his hip hop. I don't even listen to hip hop anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I don't really know who these people are except for he used to be Puff Daddy, and he was no different then. I mean, everybody was saying stuff about him then. So I mean, honestly, and not just him.
Just the industry, all of them.
The industry is just like this. And if you don't know that by now, you're still trying to get into this industry, well then look,
that's on you.
Fish at your own risk that.
You're an adult.
Sorry.
You're an adult. You should know at this point. But
not a child.
Yeah. But yeah, we don't see women get beat. Clearly, I don't think it's necessary to say the obvious. Obviously, we don't want to see someone get beat. People should not get beat up. But yeah, but anyways, I want to let you guys know that we did get your message about the B. Diddy situation. We did see a little bit of the video that went through, but we just don't feel it's important to make a hour-long video or whatever. on the subject. So that's what we feel about that. We actually wanted to talk what we felt was a little bit more important that I thought was more interesting was the Chiefs kicker, what's his name? Harrison Butker. Yeah, did a commencement speech for a Catholic college, I believe. I think it's Catholic college. And I wanted to actually look at the speech here because people are telling us about this speech. We got sent this speech, and my mom talked about this. I didn't even realize this was happening. You know what I mean? But all these commencement speeches are coming out. So, but I wanted to see this one because this one kind of went a little viral there. And what he said apparently it made a lot of women upset. Because, of course, I think he's Catholic, so I'm assuming he said something very traditional and conservative, and people, of course, are not going to like that. So I wanted to see his speech and see what he says. I think the speech is like 20 minutes long, so we're going to get right into it. Let's see what he has to say here.
Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2024, I would like to start off by congratulating all of you for successfully making it to this achievement today. I'm sure your high school graduation was not what you had imagined, and most likely, neither was your first couple years of college. By making it to this moment through all the adversity thrown your way from COVID, I hope you learned the important lessons that suffering in this life is only temporary. As a group, you witnessed firsthand how bad leaders who don't stay in their lane can have a negative impact on society. While COVID might have played a large role throughout your formative years, it is not unique. Bad policies and poor leadership have negatively impacted major life issues. Things like abortion, IVF, surrogacy, euthanasia, as well as a growing support for degenerate cultural values in media, all stem from the pervasiveness of disorder. Our own nation is led by a man who publicly and proudly proclaims his Catholic faith, but at the same time is delusional enough to make the sign of the cross during a pro-abortion rally. He has been so vocal in his support for the murder of innocent babies that I'm sure to many people, it appears that you can be both Catholic and pro-choice. He is not alone. From the man behind the COVID lockdowns to the people pushing dangerous gender ideologies onto the youth of America, they all have a glaring thing in common. They are Catholic. This is an important reminder that being Catholic alone doesn't cut it. These are the sorts of things we are told in polite society to not bring up. The difficult and unpleasant things. But if we are going to be men and women for this time in history, we need to stop pretending that the Church of Nice is a winning proposition. We must always speak and act in charity, but never mistake charity for cowardice. It is safe to say that over the past few years, I've gained quite the reputation for speaking my mind. I never envisioned myself nor wanted to have this sort of a platform, but God has given it to me, so I have no other choice but to embrace it and preach more hard truths about accepting your lane.
That reminds me of kind of us. Because we've said this before, where I don't even know why we're doing this show.
Yeah.
Half the time, I'm just like, what do we...
I speak my mind, but I don't really like telling people how to live their life.
I don't either.
I think because of the state of the country, and the way that our country's going down, I feel like
I gotta speak.
We're not telling. There is a lot of people. There's a quote that I heard just the other day that says something like basically the downfall of our country. Maybe you guys know it. The downfall of our country is when good men don't stand up.
Oh, I
can't remember the something. You guys know it. And I thought this also includes me. Mm-hmm. When women, when people who have their right mind don't speak at all, because they don't want to. They don't feel like dealing with ignorance.
Or the backlash.
Or just as a black woman, I will say this. I don't like talking about being black too often. I don't like using that term. But I will say that in this situation, as a black woman, there has to be more voices than the type of black women that always get to talk.
Yeah.
And get to say whatever they want to say and have changed black culture for the worst.
Right.
And so I think Danielle and I, at some point, it's just like, no, that isn't all black people. Particularly women, that think a certain way. And I think a lot of people who think like Danielle, black women that think like us, don't talk very much. Because we don't feel like dealing with the masses of blackness that seems to push against, why they call themselves Christians, seem to push against actual Christian values.
But what Harrison is saying here is that not like you just said, not a speaker.
Yeah, me neither.
He's not a
I'm not.
speaker. He doesn't, like he never thought he would be put in the position. But sometimes God puts you in the position to speak something, and I feel like if you have a platform, no matter how big, or how small it is, or even like in your life, in like real physical life, you should use your voice for positive, one, and two, to speak the word of God.
And staying in it. As members of the church founded by Jesus Christ, it is our duty and ultimately privilege to be authentically and unapologetically Catholic. Don't be mistaken, even within the church, people in polite Catholic circles will try to persuade you to remain silent. There even was an award-winning film called Silence, made by a fellow Catholic, wherein one of the main characters, a Jesuit priest, abandoned the church and as an apostate, when he died, is seen grasping a crucifix, quiet and unknown to anyone but God. As a friend of Benedictine College, His Excellency Bishop Robert Barron said in his review of the film, "It was exactly what the cultural elite want to see in Christianity: private, hidden away, and harmless." Our Catholic faith has always been countercultural. Our Lord, along with countless followers, were all put to death for their adherence to her teachings. The world around us says that we should keep our beliefs to ourselves whenever they go against the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We fear speaking truth because now, unfortunately, truth is in the minority. Congress just passed a bill where stating something as basic as the biblical teaching of who killed Jesus could land you in jail. But make no mistake, before we even attempt to fix any of the issues plaguing society, we must first get our own house in order, and it starts with our leaders. The bishops and priests appointed by God as our spiritual fathers must be rightly ordered. There's not enough time today for me to list all the stories of priests and bishops misleading their flocks, but none of us can blame ignorance anymore and just blindly proclaim that that's what Father said. Because sadly, many priests we are looking to for leadership are the same ones who prioritize their hobbies or even photos with their dogs and matching outfits for the parish directory. It's easy for us laymen and women to think that in order for us to be holy, that we must be active in our parish and try to fix it. Yes, we absolutely should be involved in supporting our parishes, but we cannot be the source for our parish priests to lean on to help with their problems. Just as we look at the relationship between a father and his son, so too should we look at the relationship between a priest and his people. It would not be appropriate for me to always be looking to my son for help when it is my job as his father to lead him. St. Jose Maria Escriva states that priests are ordained to serve and should not yield to temptation to imitate lay people, but to be priests through and through. Tragically, so many priests revolve much of their happiness from the adulation they receive from their parishioners, and in searching for this, they let their guard down and become overly familiar. This undue familiarity will prove to be problematic every time, because as my teammate's girlfriend says, familiarity breeds contempt. St. Jose Maria continues that some want to see the priest as just another man. That is not so. They want to find in the priest those virtues proper to every Christian, and indeed every honorable man: understanding, justice, a life of work, priestly work in this instance, and good manners. It is not prudent as the laity for us to consume ourselves in becoming amateur theologians so that we can decipher this or that theological teaching, unless, of course, you are a theology major. We must be intentional with our focus on our state in life and our own vocation. And for most of us, that's as married men and women. Still, we have so many great resources at our fingertips that it doesn't take long to find traditional and timeless teachings that haven't been ambiguously reworded for our times. Plus, there are still many good and holy priests, and it's up to us to seek them out. The chaos of the world is unfortunately reflected in the chaos in our parishes, and sadly, in our cathedrals too. As we saw during the pandemic, too many bishops were not leaders at all. They were motivated by fear of being sued, fear of being removed, fear of being disliked. They showed by their actions, intentional or unintentional, that the sacraments don't actually matter. Because of this, countless people died alone without access to the sacraments, and it's a tragedy we must never forget. Today, our shepherds are far more concerned with keeping the doors open to the chancery than they are with saying the difficult stuff out loud. It seems
You don't have to be Catholic to understand what he's saying there. A lot of the spiritual leaders of the church are even like their pope, right? They call him woke pope because they're so concerned with keeping up with culture, and so afraid to offend that they aren't saying the hard, like he just said, they're not saying the hard things that people need to hear. Because of, it's like he said, fear-based. A lot of spiritual leaders right now, or church leaders, even I didn't know this was going on really in the Catholic religion, but saying the bishops are kind of like in a fear kind of state where they don't want to speak up for things that are clearly against the word.
Like I said, I think our last video that I said when we were talking about women, and I said there is a looming amount of guilt that has been placed on people to allow, really to me, Satan to come in.
Yes.
So everybody feels sorry for women because of, I guess, we were oppressed. And everyone feels sorry for black people, and everybody feels sorry for gay people. And so because of this, and even Jewish people, and because of this, the church is supposed to not be like the world. It's the one place you can go where it's constant. And there are,
consistent.
It's consistent.
It's consistent.
You know what I mean? And if you really need to get away from the world and fall into something that's truth, then that's what church is really supposed to be. You know what I mean? It's supposed to be a place that is just never changing. It's forever. But because the church has become so weak, and because so many people who stand at the altar, the pulpit, are wanting to be popular and not wanting to be treated like, or not wanting to say that they aren't unfair, then what they do is they'll let anything in.
Yeah, right.
Like there's a church of Beyonce.
Yeah.
This is where we are, like things like that. And we're actually doing that. There is a non-binary churches where they go and they start singing, they start telling the entire congregation to do some kind of a creed or something out loud, where they start trying to make Jesus into this non-binary person. It's
against the doctrine completely.
It's just blasphemy. You know what I mean? And nobody really says anything.
Because if you say something,
we got all these lady pastors, which I don't understand how.
Y'all know how we feel about that.
How you can do that when you know this, but whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just all of the, even in the black church, it's all social justice. We've opened the door into something, and I said this a long time ago that they're coming for the church.
Oh yeah.
Because the church is really the one place where if you really want to make Marxism a big deal, you're going to have to get rid of God. Because Karl Marx didn't like God. He didn't like God because he thought that God kept people from standing up for themselves. And they let God, I guess put them into a bondage situation. And so he didn't like God. He wanted to trump God. And so in order for Marxism to really work, which is what all these things are, feminism, BLM, even civil rights. If you look deep into that, it's all Marxist.
All these activists,
all these activist things, they all have to get rid of God. And so I knew that the church, they're going to try to destroy the church.
Without order, you'd have chaos. We all know this, right? Without order, you have chaos. And what do we see right now? Chaos. And to me, God is order. For me, God is order. Let's continue.
That the only time you hear from your bishops is when it's time for the annual appeal, whereas we need our bishops to be vocal about the teachings of the church, setting aside their own personal comfort and embracing their cross. Our bishops are not politicians, but shepherds. So instead of fitting in the world by going along to get along, they too need to stay in their lane and lead. I say all of this not from a place of anger, as we get the leaders we deserve. But this does make me reflect on staying in my lane and focusing on my own vocation and how I can be a better father and husband and live in the world, but not be of it. Focusing on my vocation while praying and fasting for these men will do more for the church than me complaining about her leaders. Because there seems to be so much confusion coming from our leaders, there needs to be concrete examples for people to look to in places like Benedictine, a little Kansas college built high on a bluff above the Missouri River, are showing the world how an ordered, Christ-centered existence is the recipe for success. You need to look no further than the examples all around this campus, where over the past 20 years, Enrollment has doubled. Construction and revitalization are a constant part of life, and people, the students, the faculty, and staff are thriving. This didn't happen by chance. In a deliberate movement to embrace traditional Catholic values, Benedictine has gone from just another liberal arts school with nothing to set it apart to a thriving beacon of light and a reminder to us all that when you embrace tradition, success, worldly and spiritual, will follow. I am certain the reporters at the AP could not have imagined that their attempt to rebuke and embarrass places and people like those here at Benedictine wouldn't be met with anger, but instead met with excitement and pride. Not the deadly sin sort of pride that has an entire month dedicated to it, but the true God-centered pride that is cooperating with the Holy Ghost to glorify Him. Reading that article now shared all over the world, we see that in the complete surrender of self and a turning towards Christ, you will find happiness. Right here in a little town in Kansas, we find many inspiring lay people using their talents. President Minnis, Dr. Swafford, and Dr. Zimmerer are a few great examples right here on this very campus that will keep the light of Christ burning bright for generations to come. Being locked in with your vocation and staying in your lane is going to be the surest way for you to find true happiness and peace in this life. It is essential that we focus on our own state in life, whether that be as a layperson, a priest, or religious. Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2024, you are sitting at the edge of the rest of your lives. Each of you has the potential to leave a legacy that transcends yourselves and this era of human existence. In the small ways, by living out your vocation, you will ensure that God's church continues and the world is enlightened by your example. For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross this stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
First of all, wow. I think that women are vast majority, are going to want to be mothers and wives. Mm-hmm. And they're going to put that aside and then go right into that career thing. Mm-hmm. And then get, like we keep telling you, get to the top of that hill, the top mm-hmm. of that mountain with no kids, no husband, and a bucket of money. And a career and status and, and all that. And to hear him talk about his wife in such mm-hmm. Like he meant what he was saying right there. He's saying that he wouldn't be where he's at if it wasn't for the strength of his wife and that entire nuclear family that has been created by them. And I feel that for him because I know for sure that the nuclear family is the most powerful thing in this universe. I know that for sure. That is why they're trying to attack it. That's why it is being attacked right now. Because they don't want to see that type of unity.
I think the Kim Kardashian mm-hmm. years really did a big problem on women because the Kardashian years, the Sex and the City years, I think those years did a lot because it made women think about themselves mm-hmm. and not anything other than that. Yeah. And so when you pair that with the internet which was also the Kardashian explosion, of women always needing to be validated elsewhere, not by their husbands, not by their kids, or just their immediate family. It became look at me, and then I have to have a good career, I have to have status, I have to have money, I have to have, you know what I mean,
or just validation,
just this whole this sort of validation, and I see it in even my friends that I used to go to school with. They're like that, you know what I mean? Like they have lost themselves on the internet just to get people to think that they're more successful than they are, and that is what that whole generation did, and that's why a lot of young girls today, they worship the internet. See, I came from my generation. We didn't have Facebook.
Yeah,
and so you really only had the people around you.
Real life experience.
Real life experience. And now these kids really don't.
They virtual.
And so when they hear a man like this talking about his wife, this is how most men really would have talked about their wife if internet had not really happened. You know what I mean? It's to the idea, though, is that the fact that he excluded, guys from this part of his speech is because he knows that even this looks like Christian college. So he knows that what's going to happen immediately afterwards, they're going to forget all about what it means to be a woman biblically, and they're going to go right out there and try to be Candace Owens, who does not need to work, who's very smart, who has 3 children under 5, and she wants to fight with Ben Shapiro. And this is and I'm not saying that there's a lot of women who do this.
Yeah,
they would rather choose work over any. And I remember Elizabeth Hasselbeck saying that she left Fox and Friends. She said because I felt like I was giving my kids. She said I felt like I was giving my kids were not getting the best of me, but the rest of me. And that's just true.
Yeah.
If you go to work, your work is going to get the rest of you, because first of all, it's the first thing you're going to deal with all day for 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours. Then when you get home, your kids get what's left of you. I mean,
my hope is that at least in this country is that we just start seeing a shift back to men working and women being homemakers. That's my hope. Seeing the majority of people be back to that, because I do believe that's going to correct the behaviors of people. I think that people will start creating their own families and then have more traditional household. While I understand that we're not all robots, we all can't behave the same, I do think that life, and I think that our country would just worked better in that mindset. In the state of mind of women today, college women are going to be like, these high-powered women. That's the goal now. The goal has changed. It's no longer like family. That's not the goal anymore.
But the highest number of divorce rates
is
with
college
women are college-educated women. They're the highest number of women getting divorced.
But this is the lie, though. See, this is the thing, though. So someone said in our comments, like women, we said that women have been lied to about the whole feminism thing. You can do it all, blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm a woman, hear me roar, this, whatever. I can do whatever you can do, And they say that women, that's not a thing. Like, they haven't been lied to. And then what we mean by that is this, is that these women are actually thinking, this is the lie, that they are going to go off and be ball-busting business women, right? Career women making money and working 16, 20 hours, whatever a day, whatever it is. And they actually believe they're going to be able to sustain a home with a family and children. Just because you go to work as a woman does not eliminate your woman DNA. You still are going to want to be a mother, and you're going to find out at the end of that you don't know how to split those two. You don't know how to split that one woman. You can't split yourself. You can't be a man here and have that masculine energy and the woman here. And that's the lie, is that they're being duped in believing, like he is saying, they're being duped in believing that they can do that. That's going to be okay mentally. They're going to be fine with that. They can do it. I could do this. I can go to work 17 hours a day and come home and take care of my children and my husband, or not forget about him now. How? So that's the lie. When we say that is the lie right there. Because
you're eliminating a part, like the show The Cosby Show. The Cosby Show has always been deemed, especially in the black community, as one of the greatest shows because they were both rich people. That's why. That's essentially why.
Yeah, they were.
But I've been saying that show really ruined black women in a lot of ways, because the black women are just like Claire Huxtable now. Bossy, sassy, always trying to trump her husband mostly. You know what I mean? And he's beta.
Yeah.
If you really watch that show, now when I have it with fresh eyes and it's not on anymore, because I have that show, and I really watch it, he does more of the child rearing. He does more of the cooking. And then she goes off and gets all these promotions at her job partner and everything. And no one ever stopped to think, how did these people raise 5 children without the benefit of a maid, a housekeeper, even their parents don't live in town.
Yeah.
They live out of town. And so you think they have 5 children. They've got these high-powered careers. And that was supposed to be what the Black America, and they really focused on college, and that was supposed to be what Black America was supposed to model. But they never, ever used the word God.
Yeah.
Really in that show.
She's the primary educator to our children. She's the one who ensures I never let football or my business become a distraction from that of a husband and father. She is the person that knows me best at my core, and it is through our marriage that, Lord willing, we will both attain salvation. I say all of this to you because I have seen it firsthand, how much happier someone can be when they disregard the outside noise and move closer and closer to God's will in their life. Isabel's dream of having a career might not have come true, but if you asked her today if she has any regrets on her decision, she would laugh out loud without hesitation and say, heck no. As a man who gets a lot of praise and has been given a platform to speak to audiences like this one today, I pray that I always use my voice for God and not for myself. Everything I am saying to you is not from a place of wisdom, but rather a place of experience. I am hopeful that these words will be seen as those from a man not much older than you, who feels it is imperative that this class, this generation, and this time in our society must stop pretending that the things we see around us are normal. Heterodox ideas abound even within Catholic circles, for let's be honest, there is nothing good about playing God with having children, whether that be your ideal number or the perfect time to conceive. No matter how you spin it, there is nothing natural about Catholic birth control. It is only in the past few years that I have grown encouraged to speak more boldly and directly, because as I mentioned earlier, I have leaned into my vocation as a husband and father, and as a man. To the gentlemen here today, part of what plagues our society is this lie that has been told to you that men are not necessary in the home or in our communities. As men, we set the tone of the culture, and when that is absent, disorder, dysfunction, and chaos set in. This absence of men in the home is what plays a large role in the violence we see all around the nation. Other countries do not have nearly the same absentee father rates as we find here in the U.S., and a correlation could be made in their drastically lower violence rates as well. Be unapologetic in your masculinity, fighting against the cultural emasculation of men. Do hard things. Never settle for what is easy. You might have a talent that you don't necessarily enjoy, but if it glorifies God, maybe you should lean into that over something that you might think suits you better. I speak from experience as an introvert who now finds myself as an amateur public speaker and an entrepreneur, something I never thought I'd be when I received my industrial engineering degree. The road ahead is bright. Things are changing, society is shifting, and people, young and old, are embracing tradition. Not only has it been my vocation that has helped me and those closest to me, but not surprising to many of you, should be my outspoken embrace of the traditional Latin Mass. I've been very vocal in my love and devotion to the TLM and its necessity for our lives. But what I think gets misunderstood is that people who attend the TLM do so out of pride or preference. I can speak to my own experience, but for most people I have come across within these communities, this simply is not true. I do not attend the TLM because I think I am better than others, or for the smells and bells, or even for the love of Latin. I attend the TLM because I believe, just as the God of the Old Testament was pretty particular in how he wanted to be worshiped, the same holds true for us today. It is through the TLM that I encountered order and began to pursue it in my own life. Aside from the TLM itself, too many of our sacred traditions have been relegated to things of the past, when in my parish, things such as Ember Days, days when we fast and pray for vocations and for our priests, are still adhered to. The TLM is so essential that I would challenge each of you to pick a place to move where it is readily available. A lot of people have complaints about the parish or the community, but we should not sacrifice the Mass for community. I prioritize the TLM even if the parish isn't beautiful, the priest isn't great, or the community isn't amazing. I still go to the TLM because I believe the holy sacrifice of the Mass is more important than anything else. I say this knowing full well that when each of you rekindle your knowledge and adherence to many of the church's greatest traditions, you will see how much more colorful and alive your life can and should be. As you move on from this place and enter into the world, know that you will face many challenges. Sadly, I'm sure many of you know of the countless stories of good and active members of this community who, after graduation and moving away from the Benedictine bubble, have ended up moving in with their boyfriend or girlfriend prior to marriage. Some even leave the church and abandon God. It is always heartbreaking to hear these stories, and there is a desire to know what happened and what went wrong. What you must remember is that life is about doing the small things well, setting yourself up for success, and surrounding yourself with people who continually push you to be the best version of you. I say this all the time, that iron sharpens iron. It's a great reminder that those closest to us should be making us better. If you are dating someone who doesn't even share your faith, how do you expect that person to help you become a saint? If your friend group is filled with people who only think about what you're doing next weekend and are not willing to have those difficult conversations, how can they help sharpen you? As you prepare to enter into the workforce, it is extremely important that you actually think about the places you are moving to. Who is the bishop? What kind of parishes are there? Do they offer the TLM and have priests who embrace their priestly vocation? Cost of living must not be the only arbiter of your choices, for a life without God is not a life at all, and the cost of salvation is worth more than any career. I'm excited for the future, and I pray that something I have said will resonate as you move on to the next chapter of your life. Never be afraid to profess the one holy, Catholic, and apostolic church, for this is the church that Jesus Christ established, through which we receive sanctifying grace. I know that my message today had a little less fluff than is expected for these speeches, but I believe that this audience and this venue is the best place to speak openly and honestly about who we are and where we all want to go, which is heaven. Make no mistake, you are entering into mission territory in a post-God world, but you were made for this, and with God by your side and a constant striving for virtue within your vocation, you too can be a saint. Christ is King to the heights.
There's some construction going on outside, so sorry if it's a little bit, the back noise is loud. I might be able to drown it out, but I'm not sure I'm going to be able to. So just if you hear something, I apologize. All right.
But I like that part where he said, do this, I'm paraphrasing, but
Yeah.
basically the everyday boring things well.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of times, even Joel Osteen said this once, which I actually agreed with him on this, then and now, that he said, because he was friends with Deion Sanders, and Deion Sanders said that one thing he wanted his whole life was to win the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. And then he won, and it wasn't what he thought.
Yes.
And so it makes
Yeah.
you realize it is the journey of life
Yeah.
that's supposed to be fulfilling, not the mountaintops.
Right.
And I think so many people look at the mountaintops. I want to be the CEO. I want to be wealthy. I want to be. It's what leads people into sin, because people will do anything to get to those areas instead of just in learning and enjoying on the way there. And those are the things we get tested on, or the things we do by the menial skill, things we do every day that we think are insignificant or people aren't watching. Where we're not constantly photographing ourselves and showing people the highlights of our life.
Yeah.
Those are the things that really, really matter. And so to me, women only want to be successful so everybody can think something of them. But the everyday things we do that you don't get credit for, that people aren't going to say, oh, look, gold star for you. Those are the things that actually matter in life. Because you can be a CEO and a horrible mother.
That's very true. So doing the small things makes a difference. There's a book that I read. You know what? Let me look at the name of that book. All right, so I had to get this book because it made me think of this book that I've read this book like 3 times. It's called Make Your Bed. William H. McRaven. He's U.S. Navy retired. I have my glasses. Yeah, and this book is really good because it says make your bed. Now there's a lot of things goes on in this book. It's very small, not a big book, but he talks about how making his bed is like doing the small things well. Starting your day off doing something consistent and always doing it kind of sets your day up to be on track, level, balanced, right? Doing that one thing will then make your year that way. It can make your life that way. Your whole psychological, the way you think can just be from doing something consistently and doing it well and doing what you say you're going to do. I know the times I failed in my life, which I've failed many times in my life, right, is because I was not consistent in doing, what I was supposed to be doing. I wasn't doing things well. I was, half-assing things.
Well, I would say my mistakes in life were because I let my feelings lead me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes,
I was someone, because I didn't have God growing up.
Yeah.
I did get baptized, but my mom, we didn't go to church growing up. I think Christmas and Easter sometimes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But other than that, there really was no
teachings.
No teaching or anything, like we said, we were born to a, single mother. So there really wasn't a lot of, I would say, discipline. Like that kind of godly discipline that was, in our family.
We were disciplined kids, but
we weren't bad kids. But I'm just saying, like, there wasn't like a discipline, like a Christian discipline that was added onto our lives.
Yeah.
Mostly because my mother was single and she had a lot to do. She had a lot on her plate because she was, doing everything by herself. That, there was just some things that, she probably on Sunday she didn't feel like it.
She gave us worldly structure, but not like godly structure.
And I would need that later, but didn't think I need that earlier. By the time I was a teenager and I got baptized, I didn't care anymore because I was a teenager.
Yeah, you're right.
I was rebellious and I was ready to go, and I did go. But I would say that a lot of my mistakes came from me not being this is why I like discipline so much now. This is why I do things even when I don't want to do it, because that is something that I didn't get young.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If I didn't feel like doing something, I just didn't do it. If something made me unhappy, I just stopped doing it.
Yeah.
And that was it with everything. You know what I mean? And so that is something that I think all kids need to understand. That you aren't going to get everything you want right away. And there are some things you may never get. And there are a lot of things that I wanted that I didn't get that I'm glad I didn't get.
Yeah.
And this is why I think God is so important, because God knows what's good for you. Sometimes you think you want something that you really don't. And, I think the only time it's good to look back at your life and to look to the past is to see kind of where God has touched your life. Because then you can see where the things you wanted that you didn't get, you were glad you didn't get. You can see when you actually needed dire straits, like you needed help, and then you can see where it just intervened and something changed. And so I do think that it's the everyday things that we do that really shape us more than those like mountaintops. It's not that the mountaintops don't have relevance. It's just that there's not very many.
Well, the mountaintops are the reward for the journey. So the journey or the valley or whatever you want to call it, these are the hard steps to get to that place. So once you get to the mountaintop, like you've reached a goal and you can do your rocky jog up to the steps that you did it, right? But it really is about, even in that, even though there should always be another one, another goal, another something, right? But it does really start with discipline.
Yeah.
And I think that him speaking about that alone, doing hard things, when he said just do hard things, that speaks volumes to me, because he's saying don't always do what makes you comfortable.
That Steve Jobs, when he died, they asked him because he knew he was going to pass away.
Yeah.
And he said, what do you regret more? He said that I didn't spend any time with my family, because he had a hard time with his family.
Yeah.
They didn't really get along. He spent all of his time at work.
Lionel Richie, same deal with him. He spent so much time on his career. He says the same thing. He wasn't a good father because of it.
And so I say to a lot of women that go out in these careers, I think to myself, is it that you're trying to make it look as though you have it all? Or is everything being given 100%? Is
this a status optical thing? Because see, a lot of times it is that. It's a status.
Being honest with yourself.
Optically, you want to make it look a certain way. I'm not saying people don't have passions. If you want to be a lawyer, I wanted to drive home to you that I am not saying that people don't have certain passions, right? I'm not saying that. But there is something right now today where I think the priority is all messed up now.
Yeah.
And it's really quite sad to watch.
But then there are these women that come in and they're overly ambitious, they're business women, and they're gross.
Yeah.
And that is the way most women are today. Yeah. The women are nurturing. We're not supposed to be in that suit.
We do not handle that type of power well. I just watched I was watching the thing that went viral with AOC, I think it was Marjorie Taylor Greene and
Black chick.
Crotchet.
Yeah, Crotchet.
Yeah, something Crotchet. I can't remember her name. Toya?
Yeah.
Okay. I was watching those three women at the this congressional meeting they were having, and I was like, look at this. I'm talking about, look, here we have, you guys, we have a black woman, a Hispanic woman, and a white woman.
And they're all acting the same.
We have a Democrat and we have Republicans. Right? We have a couple of Democrats and Republicans. I don't care about the conversation. Forget the conversation. I don't want to talk about who's right and who's wrong. I'm talking about just look at that. Mm-hmm. We have these three women, Republican, Democrats, Hispanic, black, white, all kinds. And look what happens when we put them in a place like that of power. This is how it looks when you put women in a space of power. We can't handle it.
And everybody wanted us to see the three women act like crap, but I didn't. Notice all the men around them.
Yeah.
Just, there was the one guy that was trying to talk. He was like, I don't know, I can't barely hear.
That was the main, that was the head guy.
But the way that they were looking like, come on, can we get past this? But this is what happens.
Yeah.
Women, this
is what happens.
I am a woman that has a strong, I wouldn't say, I have a perspective in life. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So I don't look at myself as weak.
Mm-hmm. At all.
But I do know my limits. And I do understand where my place is and where it's not.
Yeah.
And just because you can doesn't mean you should.
I appreciate this man, Harrison. I appreciate him. Let us know what you think about Harrison's speech. Did you guys like it? Do you agree with what he's saying? Was it controversial to you? Let us know. Leave some comments below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And that's it. We will see you guys in the next video. Bye.